Candidate is Eric Gleason. Eric, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Alice. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this and doing this. I think it's an amazing platform for us to speak. My name is Eric Gleason. I was born and raised in North Bend, Oregon. I was born in 1980. I was a Hillcrest hound dog. I was a North Bend Middle School bullpup. I was a graduate of the 1998 class of North Bend High School and a very proud bulldog. I left our wonderful city September 21st of 1998 to serve my country in the United States Navy for nearly 8 years. What I noticed when I returned home was that nothing much had changed. That the people that I went to school with, the kids that I grew up with and I saw battle through certain situations were now adults in those very same situations. The mall had actually reduced from what we would consider a mall to something that just had very few stores in it. We hadn't grown at all as a community. We had contracted far more than we had expanded in any way. Since I've been back from the service since 2006, I have seen still little growth. And I know that there are things that we as citizens of North Bend want for our city, that we know could be for our city. And I think together we can build a better North Bend. I just want to do my part. I came back, I used my GI Bill, I worked my way up through my education, all the way through my doctorate, trying to push myself to be somebody that could help move the community forward. I am a member of the North Bend School District's Board of Directors. I then decided, why not try to move the needle forward as a member of our City Council. I'm also the Assistant Director of the Health Department. I work diligently to try to improve the lives of our citizens and our community every day, and it's something that I have thrived to do since I returned home from the military.
The first question, how would you improve communication between the city government and the citizens?
Alice, that's a great question. I think one thing that I've really learned to embrace, I think all of us have had to embrace a little bit with the COVID situation, is how to communicate a little bit differently than maybe we would have in years past. One thing that I think we should do as a city council is I think that we need to have quarterly or at least biannual town hall meetings with the community. Yes, the city council can say, we have an opportunity for you to speak at any of our city council meetings, and we don't see anybody there to discuss the issues. But what we need to do is have a little bit more of a, we need your feedback. We are making time. We are setting aside an appointment for you to come to us where we say, here are the concerns that we have. Now let's work together as a community to figure out what the answers for those are. Because I know that had this happened when it came to the public safety fee, I think that there's a more engaging conversation that happens between the community itself and the city council, and there's a more informed decision. I think that the advisory vote was a pretty informed aspect and we knew where we were at, but I think had we had an open conversation and open dialogue, and if we continue to have an open dialogue, we'd be able to understand what important aspects that the community sees that we need to address.
Okay, the next question. What should be the city's approach to the problem of the unhoused?
Oh, the unhoused has been a situation that so many people have tried to take a stab at, that have tried to figure out what the best solution is. I think what we need to do in order to figure out what the best answer is for the unhoused is come together as an entire community. This can't be a North Bend problem or a Coos Bay problem or a Coos County problem. It needs to be a whole. We're like, how do we work for our citizens? Because our unhoused, a significant number of our unhoused, that transient population, move around the communities, right? They don't just stay in North Bend. They don't just stay in Coos Bay. So we need to come together as a unified front to figure out what the best solution for homelessness is, because it doesn't just affect adults. It affects a significant amount of youth. As a school board member, we see a number of youth that are just sleeping on people's couches because they have nowhere else to go. Let's find and dig down to the root of the problem and figure out if we have the capacity to make things happen that we can improve their living situation. Because if those youth are safe and they're comfortable, they're going to learn better. If they learn better, they're going to become someone in the community that wants to change the way things work. Let's build from the ground up and find a solution that inhabits everybody.
Okay. The next question, given the continuing crisis of global climate change, what would be your approach to protecting the environment?
That's a really great question. It's such a multifaceted issue. I think that what we need to do again is, one, we have to do it together, because if we're going to make sweeping change, or if we're going to make even incremental change in the community itself, we have to get the buy-in from the vast majority of the community. What are you willing to do? What are you comfortable with in order to show that we have moved the needle in the right direction, so that we don't have the temperature rising significantly each year, so that the tides aren't getting higher, so that we don't have the mass wildfires that we've all been subject to this year. While we didn't have any true, real local massive fires outside of the one on North Bank Road, we were pretty inundated with smoke. It affected us pretty significantly, where we needed to mostly stay inside, especially if you had respiratory issues. So we need to find a way to work together so that we don't have these issues, because it might be a Central Oregon issue or a Northern California issue, but when we're inundated with smoke, when we look outside and we see a red sun because the sky is filled with smoke, that's not good for us. So we need to come together to find an answer that we can move everybody forward.
Thank you. The fourth question, is there waste in the city budget? If so, where would you make cuts and why?
That is a really hard question. I think that in any budget, and as someone that's looked at multi-million-dollar budgets in the county side and as the school board, I think there's always what you could be considered waste in some aspect, but what you need to do is really do a study on what that looks like. What value added aspects of any one city program are there? What non-value added pieces are there in that program? And what is actually true waste? So if you look at how a process goes from the beginning, as soon as someone walks in the door to someone leaves, how do you break that down as to what is the most efficient way possible to do that? My doctorate is actually in integrated healthcare, which focused a lot on waste and management and trying to make a process as efficient as possible. There are 1,000 things you could probably point out as, well, do we really need this versus do we really need that? I know a big part of this right now has come up is the pool. The pool gets tossed all over the place. Like, well, the pool's not opening. What are we going to do with the pool? We understand that the pool charges a very small amount for you to use it versus the expenses that it takes. Are you willing at any one point as a community member, which really comes right back to the town hall aspect, are you willing to pay $7 or $10 because the boiler is old and it takes a significant amount of money to keep the pool heated? What are we going to do about the water bill for the showers? There are all these things that at first glance may look like they could be waste, but you need to then break those things down to figure out what part of those are actually value added versus non-value added. So I think that it's going to take time, and I think that it's going to take a city council that's willing to make some, I wouldn't say radical changes, but I would say look at it from a different perspective to say, this isn't how we've always done it, and that's okay. The way we've always done it isn't necessarily the right way. Let's look at this creatively together and then figure out how we make those improvements.
Time. Okay, you have 1 minute now to tell us anything you would like to tell us.
Well, I've done it. I've really tried. I know that it probably sounds silly and hokey, but the city of North Bend has always been very near and dear to my heart. I lived in San Diego when I was in the service, and I came home because it was my home, and I've always wanted better for this place. I've worked diligently to try to ensure the safety of our community. I've worked with the North Bend Police Department in a significant number of opportunities to try to reduce our suicide rate, and we've tried to work together to do these things. I am part of the Parks Board, where I want what's places for our community to go and enjoy. I want to try to find ways to inject myself into the community to try to make it better for you as a citizen. And this is the next step for me to help that process. I love this city. I am of this city. And it means a great deal to me to be a Bulldog. And I want to move us together to build a better North Bend.
Time. Perfect. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Alice.